In this lesson, one of the most powerful features that make Power BI different from Excel dashboard is visual interaction. Instead of static charts, every visual in Power BI report can interact with others automatically. In this video, you'll learn how visual interactions work, how to design cleaner dashboards, and how to control filtering, slices, and formatting to create reports that are intuitive for business users. Let's dive in.
And one of the things that really fascinates, people about Power BI is what we call its visual interaction. All these visuals on a report interact with each other. So I can click on this one, and this visual will actually change based on that. Matrix will change. Now this matrix is only showing me sales in every country for this product line, which is mountaineering equipment. Let me just expand so you can see. So because I select mountaineering equipment, my matrix changes or gets filtered to show me just that. My revenue month by month changes to just show me that. And if I want to come out of it, I can click on it again. If I want to apply a filter, I click. If I want to come out, I click on it again. Click, click out, click out. Similarly, it will happen here. If I click on this Australia, see what it shows? It shows only this much portion is coming from Australia, and this is the total. It just gives you a perspective. It cross highlights the portion which is coming from Australia versus the entire business. Click on Canada. If I will probably click on US, it will show me a bigger pie. So this is coming from US, and this is coming from entire world. I can also use control to have multiple selection. If I want to select US and also Canada, I can use control and select, and then China. So I can have multiple selections like this. And if I want to clear the selection, I can click and click out. So the simple navigational tricks that I'm showing you, nothing, no rocket science, but this is something that usually people struggle with. Let's create one more column chart. I can click on a blank space. I can click on a clustered column chart. And what I can do is I can say retailer type and revenue in values. Gives me a column chart. Once you have your data model right, once you have your data transformation right, once you have your data types and formatting right, once you have your connections right, this is just becomes like really, really simple. Even someone who does not even understand data modeling and what has happened behind the scene, you can expose this data model and calculations to them, and they will be able to just use it and just intuitively understand how things just connect. Click and things change. That is your visual interaction. I will just let you play around with these visuals for 5 minutes. Just use other visuals. I think definitely use the card one. So card is an interesting one. So I can use a card. It just shows you one big number, and I can put revenue. Where is my revenue? Revenue in the card. 359. Put it in one side. This is my pie chart. And now when I click on anything, any element of a visual like this, see this number changes. So everything in a report just filters each other. Let's format. So now that we have created these visuals, let's format it in a way that it looks a bit nicer. You can actually have a proper title to it. And user experience around Power BI is like immensely big topic that people don't realize until a certain point. It's very easy. There's no technical complexity as such, but you have to think really from a perspective of a business. If you're sharing it with 100 people in the organization, you have to make sure it's very simple. People are not stuck. As soon as they see your report, they can immediately intuitively understand what you're trying to show them. What is the story you're conveying by your report? If a single report is answering too many questions, it gets confusing. So it's the creative part of the design. Whatever we have covered before this, like creating a calculation, the data model, the relationship, data transformation, that's very technical. That's like a hard science. From this point on, it's more like a soft science or like creativity. It's very difficult to create a report in silos. You will have to have many conversations with the people who are going to see the report, what they want to see, how they want to see, what kind of business problems they are going to address by looking at the report, what kind of decisions they want to make by looking at the report. What report is too noisy, how many visuals should you have on one page. So these are all the questions that becomes clear as you kind of build on the experience by developing more and more reports. So let's have a look at some of the techniques that you can use to kind of make it look a bit nicer. So one of very important thing is just take care of the title of the visual, because ideally you should develop a report from a mindset that as soon as someone sees it, you don't have to explain them. And one of the common mistakes that I especially see with people who start using these BI tools is they try to focus too much on the fancy part. They try to use visuals which are fancy, but they're not really useful as per se. So I think the most important thing that when you are developing a report is to make sure it's accurate. Like, that's a no-brainer. Make sure that's accurate. Once your report is accurate, then you have to answer the question, is it useful for the business? Is it serving a purpose? Is it answering an important question? It's like the usefulness of the report. If your report is useful, only and only then you can actually start worrying about, is it pretty? Do I have the right colors? Do I have all the right uh, bells and whistles in place? So accuracy, utility, and then let's call it prettiness of the report. So let's have a look at the title. Whenever you have to change any element of this visual, you have to go in this area. Again, all these options are very, very simple to use. It's this one. You select a visual, then you click here. And then it will give you all the formatting options of this visual. You can see some toggle buttons with drop-down icons. So toggle button kind of shuts, turns a certain element on and off. So this is x-axis. If I turn it off, just vanishes, right? If I turn it on, comes back up. And then I can further explore the properties of x-axis by clicking on the drop-down, and then maybe saying, I want the color to be purple, changes the color. And then you can say, maybe I want the text size to be a bit larger. This is the title of the axis, which is this year. I most of the time I just turn the title of the axis off this year, because I just think it just takes some useful real estate. If you make the title of the visual clear enough, you would usually not want this. So what I do is I go inside the axis, I turn it off. And similarly, you can work on the y-axis. What I also do a lot with the y-axis is I just turn it off, and instead I turn the data labels on like this. So just play around with some of these options and see how you can further make these visuals like stand out or appear a bit nicer, and how you can just take a bit more care of the real estate that you have. Real estate is really an important question that you will keep asking yourself over and over again, because in Power BI you really have this much space on one page. That's it. You can't really scroll down, you can't really scroll right. So real estate is something which is of importance when you're developing the report. See this card. I think the size of the font is too large. I can go here, click on the data label, maybe decrease the size to 30, decrease the size of the card, put that in one corner. So just play around with these options. It's very easy. All the options are very intuitive. I just want to give you some time to play with the options. And I will also, do some beautification of the report. I'll click here. What I'll do is, if I start with a pie chart. I click here. I would usually start with the title. Revenue by product line is fine, I guess. This title is fine. What I can do is I can bring the title in the center. Once I bring the title in the center, I can also, have a bit of a background, and I can change the font color to white just to make the title kind of stand out. I also think, there's a lot of useful real estate which is getting lost here. So maybe what I can do is I can go in the legend, because these are my legends. Instead of having it on the right center, maybe I can have it on bottom center. Yeah, this kind of saves my space, I guess, a bit. I can turn the title off. So it just turns the title off, saves some more space for me. So I'm turning the title for my legend off. So I can actually show the same kind of a pie chart in a smaller space. I'm seeing the numbers as well as the percentages. I can also decide how do I want to see my pie chart. I think it should be inside the details. Yes. So do I want to see the value as well as the percentage, or I only want to see, let's say, the value? I can also decrease the size of the legend if I want. I think 8 is the lowest size, or 9 is probably the lowest size, something like this. And then I can click on my line chart, follow the similar kind of a method for the title. I can say background, let's say navy blue, and the font color, so white. I can call it revenue by month, make it in center. I don't really want this y-axis title on the left. Turn it off. And one of the things that might be of your interest is, and it actually does save time. So see how we are making these titles consistent. So there is also an option of format painter. At times it works, at times it does not work. So you just have to find it out yourself where it works and where it does not. So what I will try to do is I will try to copy the formatting from this visual, and we'll try to apply it here, and hopefully it just automatically picks up my title in the right formatting. So I click on the visual, click format painter, just like Excel, and then click on this visual. Yeah, see, it's very useful. It just it also works across visuals. So it puts my data labels. It just gives actually pretty useful in terms of saving your time. One of the tricks that I mostly do, and I think it just works out really well, is I change the color of the page. You know how this page has the color of default white? I change it to a light gray, and I'll tell you what it actually does. It looks really good. So to do it, so first you click on the page, and then when you click on the page, you still see this, format paintbrush kind of an icon. You click on it, and you have this page background, and I can select that as a light gray, and I can decrease transparency, let's say something like this, like really light gray. So what it helps you to do is once you start putting visuals side by side, it gives you an impression of a small border in between like this without actually having a border. See this? Well, just having the right spacing, just having a consistent sizing of, just having the consistent sizing of the visual. Yeah, just having like small things just adds to the user experience a lot. This does not look right. And I can change it to maybe a column chart. How did I get this? So what I've done is I've actually used a different kind of a chart, which is this one. It allows you to put urgent in the legend and kind of stacks it, because this is a stack chart. If you will use this one, it will not stack it. So these are both column chart. This one is a clustered column. This is a stacked column. I can also copy and paste my card, and I can say I want to see profit, cost. it's usually a good practice to have these cards because cards are your important business metrics, to just have it at the top, because how we read the dashboards or the reports is same to how we read a book. So we start from the top left and then move right and down. So the most important things that you would want to see should be at the top left, and then go towards the right, and then just how you would read a book is how your report should um, be designed, keeping that in mind. So top left, the big important numbers. I can also drop a slicer in. As I said, you also have a slicer. That's my slicer. I can drop a slicer. So usually it's a good practice to just have a slicer on one corner, and you can just add a slicer here. Let's say I can add a slicer for order method type. And now I can check. If I click on email, it filters all the visuals for email. If I want to clear the slicer, I click on it again and it clears it. I can add another date slicer in. You know how by default is just picks up date as a slicer, like a slider. So you can actually slide. You can also use control to have multiple selections. You can use this, just erase an icon to clear the selections. Let's put a product name in, and then you will start to realize like some of the challenges with a slicer and what to do with it. Let's put a product name slicer in, which is like this product. Select a slicer, and I put my product here. Now it's a pretty long list, right? And it can take a lot of space. And even then you have to kind of scroll. So for these kind of instances, what you can do is you can kind of change it to a drop down. So it does not take the space. You use this drop down, you use this downward facing arrow to select a drop down. And once you do select a drop down, what you can also do is you can click on these three dots on the top and activate a search, which is very cool. It wasn't here before, but you can activate a search. So what it does is when you drop down, you have the search bar. And what I can do is, let's say I select extreme, selects all the products which has extreme. So it's not the starting point, it can come in between, it can come at the end. So these are all the products which gives you extreme. It gives you a short list, and then you can select a product. That's pretty cool. Don't have anything for this product, I guess. Does it make sense? And then you can just clear the selection. You can put your company logo at the top left. You can have a name of the report here. So it's more about user experience now. Ideally, I would not recommend you to use any custom visuals until you really need to. Just all the basic visuals available in Power BI is enough to answer most of the questions that a business would ask. Yeah, but you do still have an option to select a custom visual. Let me show you some conditional formatting stuff. I think that would be interesting. Adds a bit of a spark to your visuals. So if I have this revenue, right, you can actually do conditional formatting in a lot of places. So you click on the revenue and I say, let's say if it's above 150, it's green. If it's below a certain number, it's a yellow. And then if it's below a certain number, it's red. So I go to the conditional, the formatting area, and then I need to decide what do I need to do the conditional formatting on. Do I need to change the background color of the card based on some kind of rules? Do I need to change the color of the font based on some kind of a rules? What do I need to change? Because you can actually do conditional formatting in quite a lot of places here. So let's say I decide I want to change the background color of the card. So I go into the background. When I click on the background, I have this FX. This is where you can apply the rule. I click on FX, and then I can say, you can either do it by a color scale, rules. Field value is when you actually use a measure to do conditional formatting, because we have not really studied measures yet, you can actually click on the rules, and I can say if it's greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 50 million, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's let's say orange. New rule, if it's greater than or equal to 50 million, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and less than 100 million, 1, 2, have it blue. And new rule, let's make it green. Okay, right. So now I have applied conditional formatting in the background of a card. And let's say if I select mail, now because it is less than, I think it was 50 million, gives you this. Select email. Let's say if I select still very low, if I select web, yeah, it just turns green. You can apply the same kind of rules in the color of the font, the background color, like quite a lot of places actually. If you want to see how to do a similar stuff like you would do in Excel, so what you can do is, I'm just opening a new page and I have a name of the product. Let's say I have revenue and I have profit, right? I have a simple table. Gives you like an Excel kind of a feel. So this is your simple table. Come on. Right, it's a simple table. Then I click on this drop down, conditional formatting, icons, and these are essentially your same rules. Click OK. Bad example, but you actually get the point. Or you can click on profit, conditional formatting. Let's say data bars, positive, negative bar, axis, lowest value, highest value. Okay. You know how to bring a logo in, very simple. You click on insert, your image. Let's bring this one in, put it on the top. You can also insert a text box. In the text box, you can write, some kind of a title, let's call it. Don't really like working with the text boxes. You can also do a little trick, which is very useful in case you have like multiple cards. You want to have like equal distance in between. You can select multiple cards, and then you can go in the formatting, and that allows you to first have like equal width, equal height. So if I say 70 becomes equal 175, it becomes equal width. And then I select all three. I can go in format, and I can go in align, and I can say distribute horizontally in this case. Just gives me like equal distance in between. So these are all like simple stuff, but I think this is something that I learned last. I became really, really good with modeling and DAX and everything, but this is some of the stuff that I actually learned last. I just don't know why. It really helps. Yeah, so I think this is pretty much your data visualization enough to get you started. I'll still cover a few more points. So one of the things that I think is very important, I think, in terms of user experience is this. Have a look at what happens when I click on United States. When I click on United States, the default way how a filter moves from one visual to another visual is called cross filtering. See how it shows you a small portion of the pie, which reflects what United States portion of the pie is. This is not something that I have found out to be very useful for the management. It's not very intuitive. They can't really see like what this box really means. So what we can do is we can change the default setting of how the filter interaction actually works. Essentially, I want to do is when I click on United States, I want this pie chart to actually change, not cross filter, but to actually filter. So first I will click on this visual, which is my revenue by country. Once I click on it, I go to format. I go to format, and then I click on edit interactions. And when I click on edit interactions, you see all these things appear on other visuals, these ones. This is how you change the interaction. This, this. I can use this one to really stop this visual from interacting with my visual of selection. I can use, this is the cross filter, which is the default. This is the filter. So I can choose these options, how I want this visual to interact with this visual. So if I change this to filter, if I hover over it, it will show me the name. As you can see, it shows me filter. I click on it. And now when I click on United States, see what happens. It does not cross filter. It filters. And when I click on this one, none, this will not change now. If I click on this, if I select anything here, this visual is now unaffected. So that's how you edit the interactions of the visual. It may be a personal choice, but what I have experienced in past 4 or 5 years is people don't really like cross filter. So as a default, cross I change the visual interaction or edit interaction of all the visuals to a filter like this. Okay, let me show it again. So what I will do is, see, when I click on United States, it cross filters a visual on the left. What I want is, I don't want this to cross filter. I just want it to show me the actual values and not cross filter. So first I will select this visual. I will go in edit interactions. When I go in edit interaction, it gives me this thing right here. And this is the option I will have to choose, which is filter, not cross filter. Click here. I'm pretty sure this should be there in the old version too, Andrew. This is not a new functionality as far as I recall, like as far as I can really go. So I will just click on this visual and I will change the edit interaction of all the visuals to a filter, to filter, to filter. And then I will click on this visual and then change interaction of all other visuals to filter, 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 filter. Then I will click on this visual and click and edit interactions of all other visuals to filter, filter, filter. And another thing that I usually do is I also kind of stop interaction of some of the important cards. If one card is really showing me like a total revenue, I don't usually want that card to interact with other visuals. So I can also click on this one and change the edit interactions of cards to just none. Don't want card values to change. Again, it's a very specific to your business requirement. How do you want to see? But I've not really seen anyone like this cross filtering kind of a thing. Maybe in some specific scenarios it does work, but most of the time when you click on a certain thing, you want this one to actually change and not cross filter. See how it works now. So once you are done, you know, configuring your interactions, you can go and just close it. Well, I think, let me see if there is any important thing when it comes to the visual. There are other places that you can also put the filters in. So let's see how many places can you put the filters in, but I would not recommend you to do that. And this is probably one of the mistakes that I've made in the past, but I just don't do it anymore. Because when you share this report with a wider audience, you want them to actually use a slicer panel, or the slicers that you put on the report to kind of change the report. You don't want them to go here. But having said that, you can actually put some of the slicers and filters on this area as well. So anything that you put here will essentially work as a slicer. So what I mean is, if I go here and I put let's say a product type filter on the page, it will work exactly as a slicer. So if I click on climbing accessories, it will act as a slicer. But I've seen time and time again that end users really struggle with these kind of a slicers. If you are sharing it with wider audiences, you just want to make things simple. You just don't want slicers hidden into the, because what happens is they will come here, they will select a certain kind of a slicer, and then they will forget that they have selected anything. They will hide it, and they will say, your numbers are not correct. So yeah, all of that will happen if it's not like in their face. So although you can do it, so you can put a slicer here, you can also put a slicer here. So anything that you put here actually affects all the pages in the report. So if I put something here and just select a value, it will affect all the pages in the report. And then you can also put a slicer on the visual. So if I select a visual, and if I just zoom in, if I select a particular visual, you can actually put a slicer here. So filter on the visual, you can add a certain thing here that will affect just that visual. And then you have filters on the page. Anything that you add here will affect all the visuals on that page of the report. And anything that you put here will affect essentially all the things on all the pages of the report. So these are 3 different ways you can also configure the slicers, but I just don't think it's a good user experience. That's a possibility in slicers that you can do.